Misconceptions and misreporting, fake news, on the action intended to prevent more terror attacks right here at home. First, this from the president today.
Over the last many years, nothing got done in this country, but we're moving things along, and we're moving them along fast. We actually had a very good day yesterday in terms of Homeland Security.
No surprise, there's been false reporting by the mainstream media on Mr. Trump's order to temporarily suspend immigration from 7 countries identified by the Obama administration as sources of terror. It's not about religion. It's not a Muslim ban. Dozens of other predominantly Muslim countries are unaffected by the order. Here's some more from some of the president's top aides.
This is an authority that has been used repeatedly in the past. President Obama suspended the Iraqi refugee program for 6 full months after 2 Iraqi refugees were implicated in an al-Qaeda plot in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Our job was to take the current assessment, start there, and then create a 90-day window to come up with a new assessment to put into place.
These 7 countries, what about the 46 majority Muslim countries that are not included? Right there, it totally undercuts this nonsense that this is a Muslim ban.
Perhaps we need to take it further, but for now, immediate steps, pulling the Band-Aid off, is to do further vetting for people traveling in and out of those countries.
Now, I agree with the president. Entering the U.S. is a privilege. It's never been a right. I'd say this is a good start, this EO. It's a good first step, but I would go even further. Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, even North Korea, hotbeds of terror. Again, that's just my opinion. Well, here's another opinion from former President Obama, who chimed in on the protests, his spokesman issuing this statement, quote, "American values are at stake. The president fundamentally disagrees with the notion of discriminating against individuals because of their faith or religion." KG, I got to start with you. I mean, the former president doesn't even understand this executive order. Nowhere in that order did it say discriminate against someone because of their religion. No, not a single line.
Right, but that's the narrative coming out of it, right? That people are saying it's Muslim ban, that this is discriminatory on its face, and then you had the federal judges acting to try to stop it. But those, I believe, will not withstand an appeal. Those are going to fall because they're narrowly tailored, they were specific, and at this point I think it's going to be able to go forward. Sure, is it something that they should have been a little bit better in terms of the rollout on it, so there wasn't, you know, the scenes? I don't like to give the press an opportunity to then run footage all day long of distraught family members, people separated from a father when someone's about to give birth. That's bad optics. No one would deny that. So what do you do to make sure that the messaging is on point, that everyone understands where it's coming from? And specifically, you didn't see any of the mainstream media talking about the fact that these countries were already on the books from President Obama. That, I think, is a strong point in their favor, to say this wasn't something that arbitrarily that President Trump came up with to try to be punitive to these countries versus others. These are countries already that were on these existing lists to watch out for people coming in, terrorists that might do us harm. So there's a way to get this done right. I think they're trying to address some of those concerns and make sure that the wrong people aren't caught up in this web.
And Dana, the 109 out of the 109 people caught up out of 325,000 were caught up because they were in transit already. They were on their way and they weren't allowed in. Now, the administration says the reason why they didn't give a week or 2-week heads up is because they didn't want terrorists flooding in before, the gate closed.
Which is not a bad defense. What Stephen Miller, though, is talking about in terms of Iraq, there was an imminent threat. There was a specific incident. There was a problem in Kentucky where they found the guys, and then that's why there was that temporary 6-month thing. And now, if the Obama administration had this list of 7, in the transition, did the Obama administration suggest that maybe there needs to be additional security with these 7 countries with this particular issue? I don't think they said that. If they had, I think that Sean Spicer might have put that forward today. I agree with Kimberly, and I have Dana's rule of communication that I just actually, it's always been my rule, but I didn't know it had a name. And it's called more is less. Okay? More communication means less confusion. So on the back end, after watching all the news coverage over the weekend and some of the broadcast networks last night, I have to say, I have not seen coverage like that since Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, no
and meaning that you have pictures of you cannot talk away the photographs. During Hurricane Katrina, I'm not comparing it that these are the same two things. Obviously, people died in Hurricane Katrina, but when I'm talking about the video and it's wall to wall, and the spontaneous protests, or maybe they're not spontaneous, maybe they're paid for by all these people. Everything is just so confused. But with a little bit more communication on the front end, they wouldn't have to be cleaning it up on the back end. And then suggesting that people who were confused had some sort of malintent and that they want to hurt the administration. Like, it was actually pretty confusing until they started to explain it later.
Well, Dana points it out. If you watch the evening news over the weekend, in fact, it was completely, I heard Muslim ban, I heard travel ban. It was fake news. We saw fake news for the whole weekend.
Wow, I don't know how this has turned into an attack
President
on the
Obama
media.
President Obama made fake news.
I don't think so. I mean, to me, what happened here, and I agree, there was not only a bad rollout, it was a lack of proper process for how it was put in place, because they never went to the people at Homeland Security, the State Department. They never went to anybody, even in the intelligence agencies, and said, what do you think about this, and what would be the practical effect? And let's make sure we're all on board. According to the news reports that I saw, and it wasn't fake news, Eric, the director of Homeland Security nominated and confirmed, Mr. Trump's own guy said he was on the phone hearing about it when Trump was signing it. So, I mean, to me,
General Kelly. For the reason stated, they didn't want to give a
You can't tell your nominee.
Well, listen.
Come on, Eric.
And here's why I call it fake news. I call it fake news because
is General Kelly going to leak it?
The news reports were across the board calling it a Muslim ban. In fact, President Obama called it a religious ban, and it has nothing to do with religion.
Well, what he was doing is he was checking a box. Donald Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He says, I'm going to find a way to minimize the chance of a terror attack at home. And if you hearken back to what James Comey said in September, I don't believe Donald Trump was president yet, he says, after we crush the insurgency, hundreds of dangerous people are going to flow primarily through Europe, and we might as well be right next door. That's the reason why he wanted to do it. The execution was off. He's got a shell of his staff. He's just getting used to this. The Homeland Security told him to be cautious. There was no communication between the Customs Department couldn't get the Washington on the phone. So the execution was off.
109 people delayed.
So what you're going to do is you're going to slowly watch this dissipate. Tomorrow it's going to be all about the Supreme Court justice, and this thing will come in order. He's checking a box, but this got out of control. He also has to get used to the fact that there are people working against everything he does.
There's anything wrong with it? It's a massive change in immigration policy, and they implemented, frankly, not bad with
how did it look?
Well, it doesn't matter how it looked. You know why it looked bad? Because the mainstream media did exactly what Dana said and took cameras to every single airport where there were protests.
They happened, Eric. It's real news. You can't make stuff up and live in your own reality.
The strong arguments are...
When you frame it one way, Juan...
I'm not framing it anyway.
I'm saying the media framed it one way. No, but I don't think they went far enough. How's that?
We are media, okay? And we're discussing it. We're having an honest discussion. And I'm just telling you, even when I heard at this table today, someone said, I think it was you, Brian, you said this was intended to make us safer. Well, wait a second. None of the major attacks in the United States have been perpetrated by people coming from these countries. They're Americans.
But this is a step in the right direction. Well, these are countries, these are failed states.
It wasn't necessary.
And this is where it's going to come from. But this is a preventative measure that Donald Trump got in office to implement. For a Quinnipiac poll a few weeks ago said 48% of the country approve of suspending immigration from the terror-prone regions. So do it right, and you have the support.
Right.
Well, you had the numbers on Fox and Friends this morning to show popular support, not just amongst Republicans, but amongst Democrats, to make sure that we have proper vetting procedures in place. And the fact of the matter is President Trump relied on the exact same laws and sections that President Obama did and that he used in 2011 to prevent Iraqis from coming in. But it's how it's handled. It's the communication and the messaging. And for sure, all of the cameras were out there and covering it, because let me tell you something, any drip that they can get from President Trump and his administration, they are going to jump all over it. So guess what? You got to be ready for that, because they are going to gun for you. Do not give them an excuse.
This is not the equal of what happened with President Obama. President Obama was talking about, as Dana explained earlier, a way that we process and vet people after an incident in which it was found that two people who had their fingerprints on a roadside bomb in Iraq were in fact living in Kentucky.
Right,
so they said, let's change the way we do, let's make it more stringent, the vetting process. And that's what, but they didn't stop allowing people in.
No.
They
suspended
never stopped.
The Iraqi refugee program for 6 months.
They did not.
I believe that you believe that you
he's
would
right?
feel better. You would feel better with an enhanced screening process in those 7 countries.
We have,
I believe,
and we did.
Well, no, enhanced in those areas with a failed government. Then we got to be even more aggressive and set up our own biometric system to check people that we know nothing about. So we're bulking
Brian,
up in those 7 countries.
But Brian,
it's all about the
we've done
execution.
This. We've done this. We have in my opinion, already we have extreme vetting that requires 2 years, 24 months of process before anybody from Syria can touch down in our great country.
Well, there's Syria here, and there's Yemen, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, in another column. And he says that's suspended in forever, I think.
Well, let me just say to Eric's point, boy, this has been some terrible rollout. If you think it's cool,
disagree.
Because I'm going to tell you what already you have the terrorist leaders saying, "Oh, we love it. We love it. This is evidence America is at war with Muslims." Why would the bad guys go after us?
We're going to make them even more mad at us than they already were. Stop it.
Yeah.
Here's
You're
what
going to
happened.
encourage more
the
people
Trump
to act
administration
against us.
Made massive sweeping immigration change with not a lot of fanfare and a lead time, and they did it with minimal. 109 people detained for a few more hours. Everyone got through.
Wow.
No one else being detained is not a bad outcome. If you're securing our border
You're
better.
hurting America here.
I am.
Go ahead,
okay.
Dan.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree with that characterization, but I do think there's one other thing that they can do that can help, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the media, and that is offer a closed door, no phones allowed, background briefing for members of Congress, especially those that are on your side, to consider a Republican briefing where you send up Mr. Bannon or Mr. Miller up to the Hill. No phones allowed, and explain what you're doing so that people aren't caught flat-footed. And then, because the other thing that's going to happen, in addition to what Kimberly was saying, is that why give them any rope to hang you with? No. One of the ways that you can prevent that is to utilize your allies on the Hill so that they're not put in a position of saying, do you disagree? And on the question of the green card holders, that was extremely confusing. And they went back and forth 3 different times until they got to a point. I mean, that when you're talking about people's lives, whether it's 1 life or 109 lives, we are pro-life. So let's not screw up people's lives.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Coming up, Senate Majority